3 days after burying her father, Evelyn Carter opened her door to find a stranger holding the key to her survival, and a wedding ring with her name on it. What she didn't know, saying "I do," was the only thing standing between her and a bullet. Rasham, before we dive into Evelyn's story, I want to invite you on this journey with me. If you're curious to see how a forced marriage turns into something neither of them expected, stick around until the end. And hey, drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Now, let's get into it. The rain hadn't stopped since they lowered the casket into the ground. Evelyn Carter stood at her kitchen window, watching water streak down the glass in crooked lines, blurring the world outside into something unrecognizable. She'd been standing there for 20 minutes, maybe longer. Time had gotten slippery since the funeral. Hours bled into each other, marked only by the dull ache in her chest that never quite went away. The apartment felt too quiet, too still, like it was holding its breath, waiting for something she couldn't name. She should eat. She knew that. There were casseroles in the fridge from neighbors whose names she couldn't remember, their faces a blur of sympathy and awkward condolences. But the thought of food made her stomach turn. Everything made her stomach turn. Her father was gone. The words didn't feel real yet. Richard Carter, the man who'd taught her to ride a bike, who'd sat through every terrible school play, who'd called her every Sunday without fail, was just gone. Heart attack, the doctor said. Quick, painless. As if that made it better. She pressed her forehead against the cool glass, closing her eyes. 3 days. It had been 3 days, and she still expected him to call. Still checked her phone out of habit, waiting for his name to light up the screen. The knock at the door made her jump. Evelyn turned, her heart doing something uncomfortable in her chest. She wasn't expecting anyone. Hadn't answered the door since coming home from the cemetery, ignoring the well-meaning friends who'd tried to check on her. The knock came again, firmer this time, more insistent. She crossed the living room slowly, her bare feet silent on the hardwood floor. Through the peephole, she saw a man. Tall, dark suit, expensive-looking. He stood with the kind of posture that suggested he was used to getting what he wanted. "Miss Carter?" His voice carried through the door, smooth and measured. "My name is Adrian Vale. I'm your father's attorney. I need to speak with you." Attorney? Her father's lawyer was Gerald something or other, an older man with kind eyes who'd handled the estate paperwork years ago. She'd met him at the funeral, his hand warm when he'd squeezed hers in sympathy. This wasn't him. "I don't know you," she said through the door. "I understand your hesitation." His tone didn't change, professional, patient. "But I have documents your father left in my care, time-sensitive documents. I need 5 minutes of your time." Something in his voice made her pause. Not threat exactly, but urgency. Against her better judgment, she unlocked the door. The man standing in her hallway looked like he'd stepped out of a magazine spread. Mid-30s, she guessed. Sharp jawline, dark hair pushed back from his face, eyes so blue they were almost unsettling. The suit probably cost more than her rent. He didn't smile. "Miss Carter," he extended a hand. "Adrian Vale." She didn't take it. "You said you were my father's attorney?" "One of them." He lowered his hand without apparent offense. "May I come in?" Every instinct told her to say no, to close the door and pretend this wasn't happening. But there was something about the way he stood there, rainwater beading on his expensive coat, a leather briefcase in his other hand, that made her step aside. He entered with the careful movement of someone used to unfamiliar spaces, his eyes scanning the apartment in a single sweep before settling back on her. "You'll forgive the intrusion," he said, "but your father left specific instructions about the timing of this meeting." "What kind of instructions?" Instead of answering, he set the briefcase on her coffee table and opened it with 2 precise clicks. From inside, he withdrew a manila folder, thick with papers. "Your father's will," he said, placing it on the table, "along with several other legal documents that require your immediate attention." Evelyn stared at the folder like it might bite her. "Gerald already went over the will with me. There's nothing complicated. The house, some savings, his personal effects. That's the public will." Adrian's voice cut through hers, not unkind but firm. "What Gerald showed you was the version filed with the probate court. What I'm about to show you is something else entirely." Her stomach dropped. "I don't understand." Your father maintained two estates, Miss Carter, one visible, one hidden. The hidden estate is considerably more substantial. He paused, watching her face. It's also considerably more dangerous. The word hung in the air between them. Dangerous. This is insane, she said, but her voice came out weak. My father was an accountant. He did taxes for small businesses. He didn't have some secret life. Didn't he? Adrian opened the folder, pulling out a stack of photographs. He spread them across the coffee table in a neat row, each one face up. Evelyn's breath caught. The photos showed her father, unmistakably him, but not as she'd known him. In one, he stood outside what looked like a corporate office, his face serious as he spoke to a man in an expensive suit. In another, he sat in what appeared to be a restaurant, papers spread across the table, his expression intense. But it was the last photo that made her hands go cold. Her father, standing beside Adrian Vale. The two of them in conversation, her father's hand on the younger man's shoulder in a gesture that spoke of familiarity, affection even. When was this taken? Her voice barely made it past her throat. 6 months ago. She looked up sharply. 6 months? You knew him 6 months ago and you're just showing up now? I knew him for 12 years, Miss Carter. Adrian's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Something that might have been grief, if grief could look that controlled. I was more than his attorney. Your father... He stopped, seeming to choose his words carefully. He was like a father to me. When I lost my own family, Richard took me in, mentored me, gave me purpose. The casual use of her father's first name felt like a slap. This stranger standing in her living room, claiming intimacy with a man she'd thought she knew everything about. Why didn't he tell me about you? The question came out sharper than she intended. Because he was protecting you. Adrian picked up the folder again, withdrawing a sealed envelope. Her name was written across it in her father's handwriting, the letters slightly shaky. He wanted you to have this. After he was gone. Her hands trembled as she took the envelope. The paper felt thin, fragile. She turned it over, seeing the wax seal, old-fashioned, like something from another era. Read it, Adrian said quietly. Then we'll talk about the rest. She wanted to tell him to leave, to take his mysterious photos and his sealed letters and get out of her apartment, out of her grief. But her fingers were already breaking the seal, pulling out the single sheet of paper inside. The handwriting was definitely her father's. She'd seen it on birthday cards, on notes stuck to the fridge, on the inscription inside the book he'd given her for graduation. My dearest Evelyn, if you're reading this, then I've run out of time. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I wanted to tell you everything face to face, wanted to explain. But the cancer moved faster than the doctors predicted, and some things can't wait for perfect timing. Cancer. The word hit her like a physical blow. I've been sick for 8 months. Stage 4 pancreatic. By the time they found it, there wasn't much they could do except manage the pain and buy me time. I didn't tell you because I couldn't bear to watch you suffer through it. I know that was selfish. I know you deserve the chance to say goodbye properly. But I'm a coward when it comes to you, baby girl. I always have been. Tears blurred the words. She blinked them back, forcing herself to keep reading. The money isn't just money, Evelyn. It's evidence. Years' worth of evidence against some very dangerous people. I stumbled onto it by accident. A client who wasn't what he seemed. Transactions that didn't add up. I should have walked away. Should have minded my own business. But I couldn't. These people were hurting others, destroying lives, and I had proof. I spent 3 years documenting everything. Building a case. I worked with federal investigators, wore a wire, testified in sealed hearings. We were so close to bringing them down. And then they found out. Her chest felt tight, too tight. They can't touch the evidence. I made sure of that. But they can touch you. They will touch you. If they think it'll draw me out or punish me for what I've done. That's why I set up the inheritance the way I did. That's why Adrian is there. You need to trust him, Evelyn. I know this is asking a lot. I know you have no reason to believe a stranger. But Adrian isn't a stranger to me. He's the son I never had. The person I trust more than anyone else in this world to keep you safe. There's a condition to the inheritance. I'm sorry. I know how it's going to sound, but please understand, I didn't do this to control you. I did it to protect you. You have to marry Adrian. The paper slipped from her fingers. She read the last line again, certain she'd misunderstood. But the words didn't change. You have to marry Adrian within 30 days of my death. It's the only way to keep you safe, to give you legal protections that will make you harder to target. Adrian has agreed to this arrangement. He understands what I'm asking of him and why. The marriage can be dissolved later once the danger has passed. But until then, he needs to be able to make decisions on your behalf, to act as your legal guardian in ways that only a spouse can. I know this sounds insane. I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But please, sweetheart, please do this. Let Adrian protect you. Let him help you survive long enough to see these people brought to justice. I love you more than anything in this world. Everything I did for you. Dad. Evelyn stood there, the letter crumpled in her fist, trying to make sense of words that refused to make sense. Marry a stranger. Her father, dying, alone, keeping secrets, had orchestrated some kind of arranged marriage from beyond the grave. This is crazy. She looked up at Adrian, who'd been watching her read with an unreadable expression. This is completely insane. I know. You can't seriously expect me to... She gestured helplessly at the letter. To just marry you? Someone I met 5 minutes ago? I don't expect anything. His voice remained calm, steady. But your father was right about the danger. The people he was investigating, they're not going to stop looking for leverage. And you're the biggest leverage they have. So go to the police, FBI, whoever. The evidence your father collected is already with the authorities, but investigations take time, trials take longer, and in the meantime, you're exposed. She shook her head, backing away from him. No, there has to be another way. Witness protection means giving up your entire life. New identity, new city, no contact with anyone you've ever known. Is that what you want? I want my father back. The words tore out of her, raw and angry. I want him alive and healthy, and not having been lying to me for God knows how long. Adrian's expression softened, just slightly. I know. You don't know anything. She was crying now, hot tears of grief and fury and overwhelming confusion. You show up here with your fancy suit and your photos and your insane marriage contract, and you act like this is all perfectly reasonable, like I should just go along with it because my dead father said so. I'm not asking you to trust me. He took a step closer, his voice gentler than she'd heard it yet. I'm asking you to trust him. Your father wasn't perfect. He made choices you didn't agree with, but he loved you. Everything in that letter, everything he set up, it was all to keep you alive. She wanted to argue, wanted to throw him out, tear up the papers, pretend none of this was happening. But the photos were still spread across her coffee table. Her father, living a life she'd known nothing about. Fighting battles she'd never seen, dying alone because he thought it would protect her. How long? Her voice came out hoarse. How long did you know he was sick? From the beginning. He told me the day after his diagnosis. And you just let him lie to me? It wasn't my choice to make. Adrian's jaw tightened. Believe me, I argued with him about it. Told him you deserved to know. But he was stubborn. Said he'd rather have you angry at him after he was gone than watch you suffer while he was still here. That sounded like her father. Protective to a fault, even when that protection hurt. She looked down at the letter again, at the shaky handwriting that proved how sick he'd been when he wrote it. The marriage, she said slowly. It's just legal, right? Just paperwork. Just paperwork, Adrian confirmed. We live together for appearances and safety, but I'm not asking for anything beyond that. Separate rooms, separate lives, as much as possible under the circumstances. And after, when this is over, clean divorce. No contest, no drama. You walk away with the full inheritance, I walk away with nothing. It should have sounded too good to be true, should have set off every alarm bell she had. But there was something in the way he said it, not eager, not manipulative, just tired, like he'd already resigned himself to this being as unpleasant for him as it was for her. Why would you agree to this? She asked. What do you get out of it? For the first time, his professional mask cracked. She saw grief there, real and deep. I get to keep the last promise I made to the man who saved my life, he said quietly. Richard asked me to protect you, so that's what I'm going to do. The rain kept falling outside, a steady rhythm against the windows. Evelyn closed her eyes, exhaustion settling over her like a weight. I need time, she said. to think, to process all of this. You have 27 days, Adrian replied. After that, the inheritance reverts to a trust you can't access, and you lose the legal protections the marriage would provide. 27 days to decide if she was going to marry a stranger. 27 days to figure out if she could trust her father's judgment, even now. I'll come back tomorrow, Adrian said, already moving toward the door. You should read through the rest of the documents. Get a sense of what we're dealing with. Wait. She didn't know why she stopped him. Didn't know what else there was to say. He turned back, one hand on the doorknob. Did he suffer? The question hurt to ask. At the end? Adrian's expression softened again, that careful control slipping just enough for her to see the person underneath. No, he said. He went peacefully, in his sleep. I was with him. The tears came harder then, unstoppable. Her father had died with a stranger beside him because he'd pushed away the daughter who should have been there. Adrian hesitated, like he wanted to say something else. But in the end, he just nodded once and left, closing the door quietly behind him. Evelyn stood in the middle of her living room, surrounded by photos of a father she'd never really known, holding a letter that turned her entire world upside down. Outside, the rain finally began to slow. The next morning came too soon. Evelyn had spent most of the night staring at the ceiling, her mind running in circles that led nowhere. Every time she'd close her eyes, she'd see her father's handwriting. You have to marry Adrian. By the time gray light started filtering through her curtains, she'd given up on sleep entirely. She made coffee she didn't drink, took a shower that didn't make her feel any cleaner, and sat down at her kitchen table with the folder Adrian had left behind. The documents were extensive, detailed. Whoever had put this together, her father, she assumed, with Adrian's help, had thought of everything. The marriage contract was straightforward, almost cold in its precision. A legal arrangement designed to give Adrian the authority to make decisions on her behalf if she was incapacitated, to manage the inheritance, to act as her legal representative in matters related to her father's estate. There were provisions for dissolution, clear terms about asset division, even a clause about what would happen if either of them died before the arrangement ended. It was the kind of contract you'd make with a business partner, not a husband. Which was the point, she supposed. Underneath the contract were bank statements, account numbers she'd never seen before, containing amounts that made her breath catch. Her father had been worth millions. Actual millions. How? She flipped through more pages. Investment portfolios. Real estate holdings. Assets scattered across different states, different countries even. And then, buried near the bottom of the stack, she found the evidence. Copies of financial records showing money laundering, shell corporations, falsified tax documents, names and dates and transaction amounts, all meticulously documented in her father's neat handwriting. She recognized some of the company names. Big corporations, the kind that made headlines, respectable on the surface, rotten underneath. Her phone buzzed, making her jump. Adrian's name appeared on the screen. She'd added his number last night, more out of resignation than anything else. May I come by? We should talk. She stared at the message for a long moment before typing back. Fine. Give me an hour. An hour to shower again. To put on real clothes instead of the pajamas she'd been living in. To try to look like a person who had their life together, even though that was a complete lie. When Adrian knocked, she was as ready as she was going to be. He looked different in daylight. Still polished, still professional, but somehow more real. The shadows under his eyes suggested he hadn't slept much either. Coffee? She offered, mostly because it was something to do with her hands. Please. They sat across from each other at her kitchen table, the folder of documents between them like a third presence. You read everything, Adrian said. It wasn't a question. Most of it. The parts that made sense, anyway. She wrapped her hands around her mug. There's a lot I still don't understand. Like what? Like how my father, an accountant from Portland, ended up with millions of dollars and a target on his back. Adrian took a long sip of his coffee before answering. Your father wasn't always an accountant. Before you were born, he worked in corporate finance, high-level stuff. He saw how the game was played from the inside. He never mentioned that. He didn't like to talk about it. Said it was before he figured out what mattered. Adrian's mouth quirked, almost a smile. Then he met your mother, had you? And decided he wanted a quieter life. So he left. became a small business accountant, spent his time helping honest people navigate their taxes instead of helping rich people hide their money. Evelyn's throat tightened at the mention of her mother. Dead 12 years now, cancer too, though that one they'd seen coming. So what changed, she asked. What made him get involved in all this? A client, Marcus Holloway, came to Richard about 5 years ago, needed help setting up an LLC. Standard stuff, or so it seemed. But Richard noticed inconsistencies in the financial statements Holloway provided, numbers that didn't add up. And he couldn't just let it go. Would you? Adrian met her eyes. If you knew someone was using shell companies to funnel money from pension funds, stealing retirement savings from working people, would you look the other way? She didn't answer. Didn't need to. Richard started digging, Adrian continued, carefully at first, just enough to confirm his suspicions. Then he went to the FBI, told them what he'd found. They asked if he'd be willing to help build a case. And he said yes. He said yes. Adrian's expression darkened. What he didn't know was how deep it went. Holloway wasn't the top. Wasn't even close. He was just one player in a network that spanned 3 states and involved some very powerful people. Evelyn thought about the names in the documents, the corporations. How powerful? Powerful enough to make people disappear. Adrian's voice was flat. 3 other informants in this case, all dead within the last 2 years. Car accidents, supposedly. Suicides. One guy fell off his balcony. Her blood went cold. And nobody investigated? Oh, they investigated. Found nothing. These people are good at covering their tracks. He leaned forward, his intensity suddenly focused entirely on her. That's why the marriage matters. As my wife, you gain certain legal protections. I can invoke spousal privilege, keep you from being compelled to testify if they try to use you to get to the evidence. I can make medical decisions if they try to hurt you. I can move you, hide you if necessary, without needing your consent if you're incapacitated. You make it sound like a war. It is a war. And your father just enlisted you as a soldier. The bitterness in his voice surprised her. You're angry at him, she said. Adrian looked away, his jaw tight. I'm angry he put you in this position. Angry he didn't tell you sooner. Angry he's not here to face this himself. He paused. But I'm not angry enough to walk away. He asked me to protect you, and I will, whether you marry me or not. Then why the marriage? If you're going to help anyway, because it's the smart play, he cut in. The legal protections are real, and there's something else. He pulled out his phone, scrolling to a photo. Recognize him? The man in the picture was maybe 50, silver-haired, distinguished-looking. He stood outside a courthouse, surrounded by reporters. No, Evelyn said. That's James Garrett, state senator, also one of the people your father's evidence is going to bury. He's got reach, connections, the kind of man who can make things happen with a phone call. Adrian's expression was grim. 2 days ago, someone tried to access your father's house, the one you inherited. Broke the lock, spent about 30 minutes inside before the alarm company called it in. Her mouth went dry. What were they looking for? The evidence. They don't know your father already handed it over. They think it's still out there somewhere, hidden. Did they find anything? No, but they'll try again. They'll try here too eventually, and they'll sure as hell come after you directly if they think it'll work. Evelyn stood abruptly, needing to move. She walked to the window, looking out at the street below. Normal people doing normal things. Going to work, walking dogs, living lives that made sense. I can't do this, she said quietly. You can. I don't even know you. Then get to know me. Adrian's voice was closer now. She turned to find him standing a few feet away, giving her space but not leaving. You have questions. Ask them. She should have 1,000,000 questions. Should demand his entire life story, every detail that would tell her if he was trustworthy. But only one question came out. Why did my father trust you? Something shifted in Adrian's face. The professional mask slipped, revealing raw grief underneath. Because I was drowning, and he threw me a line. His voice was rough. 6 years ago, I lost everything. My parents, my sister. Car accident on the way to my law school graduation. Drunk driver crossed the median, hit them head on. They died instantly. Evelyn's breath caught. I went off the rails, Adrian continued, the words coming faster now, like he needed to get them out. quit law school, started drinking, spent my inheritance on expensive ways to stop feeling anything. I was on track to either end up dead or in jail when Richard found me. How? I was his accountant's son. A bitter smile. Small world, right? Richard had known me since I was a kid, watched me grow up. When he heard what happened, he tracked me down, dragged me out of a bar where I'd been living for 3 days, brought me to his house, sobered me up, and told me I had 2 choices. I could keep destroying myself, or I could honor my family by becoming the person they'd raised me to be. And I chose to live. Adrian's eyes met hers, and she saw the truth there. He paid for me to finish law school, gave me a place to stay, kept me accountable. When I graduated, he hired me to help manage his growing portfolio of extracurricular activities. The investigation. Among other things, Richard was involved in a lot of quiet charity work, helping people who couldn't help themselves. I became his legal shield for that too. Evelyn studied him, trying to reconcile this story with the man standing in her living room. He never mentioned you. Not once. I know. It hurt, honestly, but I understood. You were his priority, always. Keeping you separate from his darker work, from me, from all of it. That was how he protected you. Until he couldn't anymore. Until he couldn't anymore, Adrian agreed. They stood there in silence, the weight of everything unsaid pressing down between them. Finally, Evelyn spoke. If I do this, if I marry you, what does it actually look like, day to day? We'd need to live together. My place is more secure, better set up for what we're facing. But I travel a lot for work, so you'd have space, time to yourself. And when you're there, we coexist respectfully. I won't interfere with your life more than necessary. You keep working, seeing friends, whatever you need to feel normal. I'm there. As a presence. A deterrent. For how long? As long as it takes. The federal investigation is moving forward, but trials take time. Could be 6 months. Could be a year. A year of being married to a stranger. A year of living in fear, looking over her shoulder, wondering if today would be the day someone came for her. Or she could walk away, take her chances, hope that the bad guys didn't find her worth the trouble. She thought about her father, sick and dying, putting this plan together. She thought about the letter, his shaky handwriting begging her to trust Adrian. She thought about what it meant to honor someone's final wish, even when that wish made no sense. I need to see where you live, she said finally. Before I decide anything, I need to see the place you're asking me to move into. Adrian nodded slowly. Fair enough. Can you be ready in 20 minutes? Make it 30. Done. He headed for the door, then paused. Evelyn? She turned. I know this is impossible. I know I'm asking you to take a leap that shouldn't have to be yours to take. But for what it's worth, he hesitated, choosing his words carefully. Your father talked about you constantly. Every conversation we had, somehow you'd come up. How proud he was. How much he loved you. How you were the best thing he ever did. Adrian's voice softened. He died knowing you were cared for. That wasn't nothing. Then he was gone, leaving her alone with the ghost of a father who'd loved her enough to lie, and the stranger who'd promised to keep her alive. She had 30 minutes to pack a bag. 30 minutes to decide if she was brave enough or desperate enough or trusting enough to bet her life on her father's judgment. Evelyn looked at the photos spread across her coffee table. Her father, living a secret life, fighting battles she'd never seen. She picked up the letter, reading it one more time. Please, sweetheart, please do this. Okay, Dad, she whispered to the empty room. Okay. She went to pack. Adrian's building was the kind of place Evelyn had only seen in magazines, glass and steel rising 30 floors above the city, with a doorman who nodded at Adrian like they were old friends, and a lobby that looked more like an art gallery than an apartment entrance. She followed him into an elevator with mirrors on 3 sides, watching their reflections multiply into infinity. Strangers standing too close in an enclosed space, about to decide if they'd pretend to be husband and wife. The elevator didn't stop until the 28th floor. I own the floor, Adrian said, as if that was a normal thing to say. He keyed in a code on a panel beside double doors. There are 2 other units, but I bought them for privacy. Had the walls reinforced, security upgraded. The doors opened into a space that stole the breath from her lungs. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire city, the view so expansive it felt like standing on top of the world. The apartment itself was all clean lines and expensive minimalism. Dark hardwood floors, furniture that looked more like sculpture than something you'd actually sit on, art on the walls that was probably worth more than her car. It was beautiful. It was also completely impersonal, like a hotel suite designed to impress rather than comfort. Guest rooms are down that hall, Adrian said, gesturing to the left. Master suite is on the right. You'd take the guest wing. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, your own sitting area. You wouldn't have to see me if you didn't want to. Evelyn walked to the windows, her reflection ghosting across the glass. From up here, the city looked clean, organized. Nothing like the chaos she felt inside. It's not very lived in, she said. I'm not here much. Adrian moved to the kitchen, a gleaming expanse of marble and stainless steel. Most of my work keeps me traveling. This is more of a base than a home. Where's home, then? He paused, his hand on the refrigerator door. I'm not sure I have one anymore. The honesty in his voice surprised her. She'd expected more of the polished professional, the man who had answers for everything. But there was something raw in that admission, something that made him seem less like a stranger and more like a person. Can I see the guest rooms? He led her down a hallway lined with abstract paintings, their colors muted and cold. The guest wing was as impressive as the rest of the apartment. Large bedroom with its own bathroom, walk-in closet, a sitting area with more of those impossible windows. There's a home office in the next room if you need workspace, Adrian said from the doorway. Wi-Fi password is on the router. Kitchen's fully stocked, or there's a meal service I use if you don't feel like cooking. Evelyn sat on the edge of the bed testing the mattress. Firm, expensive, probably cost more than all the furniture in her apartment combined. This feels wrong, she said quietly. What does? All of this. Moving into your space, disrupting your life, playing house like we're something we're not. Adrian leaned against the doorframe, his arms crossed. You think your life isn't disrupted? That any of this is fair to you? I didn't say that. Your father and I talked about this extensively. He wanted to buy you a place, somewhere secure where we could both stay. Neutral ground. Adrian's expression tightened. But neutral ground is harder to defend. This building has security, I trust, protocols in place. If something happens, I know the exits, the safe rooms, the people who'll help. You're talking like we're going to war. We might be. The casualness of it chilled her. This was his normal. Thinking about exits and safe rooms and people who might come to kill them. I don't know how to do this, Evelyn said, and she hated how small her voice sounded. Adrian crossed the room, sitting in the chair by the window. Not close enough to crowd her, but close enough that she didn't feel quite so alone. Nobody knows how to do this, he said. This isn't a normal situation. There's no playbook. You seem pretty calm about it. I'm good at looking calm. Doesn't mean I am. He rubbed his face, and for the first time she saw the exhaustion there. Your father asked me to do this 6 months ago. 6 months I've had to prepare, to think about what it would mean. You've had less than 24 hours. Did you argue with him when he first asked? I told him he was insane. A ghost of a smile crossed Adrian's face. He said I was probably right, but asked me to do it anyway. Said if anything happened to him, you'd need someone who understood the stakes. Someone who could navigate the legal mess and keep you safe until the investigation wrapped. And you just agreed? Not immediately. I told him there had to be another way. Witness protection, private security, anything else. But he'd already thought of all that, rejected all of it. This was the only solution that kept you in your life while still providing real protection. Evelyn looked out the window at the city below. He could have asked me, before he died. Could have explained all this while he was still alive to answer questions. He was afraid you'd say no. I should have had the choice. You're right, you should have. Adrian's voice was quiet. Your father made a lot of choices that weren't his to make. I loved him, but I'm not blind to his flaws. Control was one of them. He thought he knew best, even when he didn't. The admission surprised her. She'd expected Adrian to defend her father unconditionally, to make excuses for the lies and manipulations. You're not what I expected, she said. What did you expect? I don't know. Someone more corporate, cold? You seemed so professional yesterday. Yesterday I was delivering bad news to someone in crisis. Today, I'm just trying to be honest. He stood, moving back toward the door. I'm going to make coffee. You want to take some time, look around, get a feel for the space? She nodded, grateful for the excuse to be alone. After he left, Evelyn explored the guest wing more thoroughly. The closet was empty except for spare hangers, ready for her things. The bathroom had fresh towels, unopened toiletries, everything she might need. The sitting area had a small desk, a comfortable reading chair, bookshelves waiting to be filled. Adrian had prepared for her. Made space in his carefully controlled world for the chaos she was about to bring into it. She found him in the kitchen, 2 mugs of coffee already poured. He'd changed into jeans and a sweater, looking more human and less like a lawyer ready for court. There's something else we need to discuss, he said, sliding 1 mug across the counter to her. The wedding itself. Right. Because marrying a stranger wasn't complete without actually having a ceremony. Please tell me we're not doing a big production. Courthouse, next week if you agree. I've already filed the license application. We just need to show up, sign papers, and it's done. That simple? That's simple. He took a long drink of coffee. Though we should probably discuss rings, for appearance sake. Rings. Wedding rings. The physical symbol of a marriage that was nothing but contract and protection. I don't have my mother's ring anymore, Evelyn said. Sold it years ago when I needed tuition money. We'll buy something simple. Nothing flashy. Just enough to make it believable. Believable. As if anyone would believe this was real. What about your life? She asked. You said you travel a lot. What happens to that? I'll scale back, take cases I can handle remotely. Your safety is the priority. You're giving up work for this? I'm adjusting my schedule, there's a difference. Adrian set down his mug. And before you argue, this isn't a sacrifice. Your father paid me well for years. Invested in my career. This is me paying that debt. I'm not a debt to be paid. No, you're a person who deserves to live without fear. And I'm someone who can help make that happen. Evelyn wanted to argue more, but she was tired. Bone-deep tired of fighting against a situation she didn't create and couldn't fix. When do we tell people? She asked. Tell them what? That we're getting married. I have friends, coworkers. They're going to wonder why I suddenly have a husband. Adrian considered this. We tell them we met through your father, that we got close after his death. Fast relationship, maybe, but people will chalk it up to grief. Seeking comfort in someone who understood what Richard meant to you. It was a good cover story. Believable, even. Except for the part where it was completely fabricated. I'm a terrible liar, Evelyn said. Then don't lie. Just don't volunteer the whole truth. He moved around the counter, standing closer. People see what they want to see. We act like a couple getting to know each other. They'll fill in the blanks themselves. Act like a couple. Hold hands occasionally, stand close, use each other's names like they mean something. Adrian's voice was matter of fact, like he was discussing a business strategy. Nothing excessive, just enough to sell it. The clinical nature of it should have made her feel better, should have reinforced that this was just an arrangement, nothing personal. Instead, it made her feel hollow. I need a few days, she said, to tell my friends something, to pack my things, to close up my apartment. Keep the apartment, don't give it up. Why not? Because when this is over, you'll want somewhere to go back to, somewhere that's yours. Adrian's expression softened. This is temporary. You shouldn't have to lose your whole life for it. It was a kindness she hadn't expected, a recognition that she'd need an exit strategy, a way back to normal when this nightmare finally ended. Okay, she said quietly. Okay, I'll keep it. So is that a yes? To the marriage? Evelyn looked around Adrian's immaculate apartment, trying to imagine herself living here, trying to imagine mornings in this kitchen, evenings watching the city lights from those massive windows, trying to imagine sharing space with a man she barely knew, trusting him with her life because her father had trusted him first. It was insane, but so was everything else about this situation. Yes, she heard herself say, I'll marry you. Adrian nodded once, something that might have been relief crossing his face. I'll finalize the arrangements. We can do the courthouse ceremony next Friday. That gives you a week to handle your affairs. What do I tell my friends? Whatever feels right. That we're moving fast, maybe too fast, but it feels right anyway. He paused. That your father would have approved. That last part hurt, but it was true. Her father had more than approved. He'd orchestrated this entire thing. "I should go," Evelyn said. "I have a lot to do." Adrian drove her back to her apartment, the silence between them more comfortable than it should have been. When he pulled up to her building, he didn't immediately unlock the doors. "This is going to be strange," he said, "for both of us, but we'll figure it out." "You sound very sure of that." "I'm sure I'll try my best. That's all I can promise." It was the most honest thing anyone had said to her in days. She went upstairs to her apartment and sat in the middle of her living room floor, surrounded by the life she was about to put on pause. The books she'd collected over years, the photos on the walls, the couch she'd bought secondhand and somehow gotten up 3 flights of stairs with her friend Maya's help. Her phone buzzed. Maya, as if summoned by thought alone. "Coffee tomorrow? You've been radio silent, and I'm worried." Evelyn stared at the message, trying to figure out what to say. How to explain that her life had gone completely off the rails in the span of 48 hours. "Yeah." "Coffee sounds good. I have news." The response came immediately. "Good news or disaster news?" Evelyn laughed, but it came out more like a sob. "Honestly, I'm not sure yet." The week that followed was a blur of activity that didn't quite feel real. Evelyn told Maya and her 2 other close friends about Adrian over coffee, watching their faces shift from concern to confusion to cautious excitement as she explained the whirlwind romance story Adrian had crafted. "Wait, you're getting married?" Maya's voice pitched up an octave. "Married, married? Like wedding and everything?" "Small ceremony, just courthouse. We're keeping it simple." "Evelyn, your dad just died." Sarah, the practical one, leaned forward with worried eyes. "Are you sure you're thinking clearly? This seems really fast." "I know it's fast, but Adrian knew my father. He understands what I'm going through, and I don't want to be alone right now." The lies tasted bitter, but they came easier than she'd expected. "Dad would have liked him. That matters to me." "Have we met him?" Lisa asked. "Because I feel like we should definitely meet him before you marry him." "You can meet him. I'll bring him to dinner this week." That had been Adrian's idea. Let her friends vet him, ask questions, satisfy themselves that she wasn't making the worst decision of her life. Even if she was. She'd packed up her apartment over 3 days, sorting through what to bring and what to leave behind. Adrian had sent movers to help, professional and efficient, but she'd done most of it herself. Needed to do it herself, to maintain some illusion of control over a life that had spun completely out of her grasp. The dinner with her friends happened on Wednesday. Adrian showed up in casual clothes, armed with flowers for Maya's birthday next month that Evelyn had mentioned in passing. He was charming without being slick, attentive without being overbearing. He told stories about her father that made everyone laugh, referenced inside jokes from their supposed courtship that Evelyn had to fake remember. By the end of the night, even Sarah seemed convinced. "He's good," Maya whispered when Adrian stepped away to take a phone call. "Like really good. Are you sure he's real and not some fantasy you manifested?" If only she knew. "He's real," Evelyn said. "Too real sometimes." On Thursday, she went to her father's house. The one she'd inherited, the one someone had broken into looking for evidence that wasn't there. It felt wrong, walking through rooms her father would never inhabit again. His coffee mug still sat in the sink, his reading glasses on the table beside his favorite chair, everything frozen in the moment before his life ended. Adrian had come with her, standing quietly in the doorway while she wandered through memories. "We should sell it," she said finally. "There's nothing here I need to keep." "Are you sure?" "It's just a house. He's not here anymore." But she took his reading glasses anyway, slipping them into her pocket. And the photo from his desk, the one of her mother holding infant Evelyn, both of them squinting into sunshine. Friday arrived too quickly. Evelyn stood in her apartment, technically still hers, but feeling less so with every hour, and tried to figure out what you wore to a fake wedding at a courthouse. She settled on a simple blue dress, nothing bridal. This wasn't that kind of day. Adrian picked her up at 9. He wore a dark suit, crisp white shirt, no tie. He looked like he was going to a business meeting, which she supposed he was. Just one with lifelong legal implications. "You ready?" he asked. "No, but let's do it anyway." The courthouse was busy, filled with other couples in various states of excitement or grim determination. Some dressed in full wedding regalia, others in jeans. Love and obligation and everything in between, all waiting for the same piece of paper. Their names were called after 20 minutes. The ceremony took less than 5. A board clerk read the legal requirements, asked if they understood what they were entering into, had them sign multiple copies of the marriage certificate. "Do you have rings?" the clerk asked. Adrian pulled out a small box. Inside were 2 simple gold bands, elegant in their plainness. He'd bought them without telling her, without asking her opinion or preference. The ring slid onto her finger easily, like it was meant to be there. She took the other ring with shaking hands and slipped it onto his. His fingers were warm, steady. "By the power vested in me by the state, I now pronounce you married. You may kiss if you'd like." It was optional. A courtesy extended to couples who actually wanted to kiss each other. Adrian looked at her, a question in his eyes. Evelyn leaned forward and pressed her lips to his cheek, quick and chaste. "Congratulations," the clerk said, already reaching for the next file. And just like that, Evelyn Carter became Evelyn Vale. They walked out of the courthouse in silence. The sun was too bright, the day too beautiful for how hollow she felt inside. "You kept your last name on the legal documents," Adrian said, "but the marriage certificate has you as Vale. You can use either." "Which would be more convincing?" "Probably Vale, but it's your choice." Everything was her choice, except none of it really was. They went to lunch because Adrian said they should, that it would look strange if they got married, and then immediately went back to their separate corners. He took her to a quiet restaurant where they sat by the window and ordered food neither of them ate. "You okay?" he asked. "I just married a stranger to inherit money I didn't know existed and avoid being murdered by people I've never met. So yeah, I'm fantastic." A small smile crossed his face. "When you put it like that, how else should I put it?" "Fair point." He pushed food around his plate. "For what it's worth, you can still back out. Annulment is possible if we act fast enough." "And then what? Go back to my apartment and wait for someone to come after me?" "I'd still protect you, marriage or not." She believed him. Which was maybe the strangest part of this entire situation. She barely knew Adrian Vale, but she believed he'd keep his word. "The marriage stands," she said. "We made a deal." "We made a deal," he echoed. They went back to his apartment. Their apartment now, legally speaking, and Evelyn stood in the guest bedroom surrounded by boxes from her old life, trying to figure out how to unpack a temporary existence. Adrian appeared in the doorway. "I'm going out for a few hours. Security code is 4782. Don't open the door for anyone you don't know." "Where are you going?" "Client meeting. Shouldn't take long." He left before she could ask anything else. Evelyn unpacked slowly, trying to make the sterile guest room feel like something approaching home. Her books on the shelves, her photos on the desk, the blanket her mother had crocheted, draped across the foot of the bed. Small pieces of herself scattered through Adrian's carefully controlled space. She was arranging clothes in the closet when she heard the front door open. Too soon for Adrian to be back. Her heart kicked into overdrive. "Evelyn?" Adrian's voice. "You home?" She came out of the bedroom to find him in the kitchen with grocery bags. "Client meeting?" she asked. "Finished early. Figured I'd pick up some real food. The meal service is good, but nothing beats actual cooking." "You cook?" Badly, but enthusiastically. He started unpacking vegetables, chicken, spices she didn't recognize. "I thought we should have dinner together. First night as—" He trailed off, seeming unsure how to finish that sentence. "As husband and wife?" Evelyn supplied. "As roommates who happen to be legally bound." Adrian pulled out a cutting board. "You can help if you want, or just keep me company. Or hide in your room. No pressure." She should hide, should maintain distance, keep this professional. Instead, she pulled up a stool at the kitchen island. "What are you making?" "Chicken stir-fry. It's one of 4 dishes I can make without burning the kitchen down." "What are the other 3? "Spaghetti, omelets, and grilled cheese. I'm a man of limited but reliable skills." Evelyn found herself almost smiling. "My father cooked?" "Constantly. He'd come over every Sunday and make elaborate meals, trying to teach me proper technique. I was a terrible student." Adrian started chopping vegetables with careful precision. "He made this amazing pot roast. Took all day. I never got the recipe." The mention of her father brought the hollow feeling back. "He never cooked for me much," Evelyn said quietly. "After my mom died, we mostly did takeout. I think cooking reminded him too much of her." "She taught him?" Yeah, she was Italian, grew up in a family where Sunday dinners were sacred. She passed that to him, and when she died, I think he just couldn't. Adrian nodded, understanding without needing more explanation. Grief makes us strange. We avoid the things that matter most because they hurt too much to touch. Is that why you don't cook much? Reminds you of your family? He paused, knife hovering over a bell pepper. Yeah, my mom taught me to make omelets, said every adult should know how to make at least one breakfast dish. I can't make them without remembering her standing beside me, correcting my technique. But you still make them. Sometimes the hurt is worth it, for the memory. They fell into comfortable silence as Adrian cooked. Evelyn watched him move around the kitchen with practiced efficiency, the domestic scene so at odds with everything else about their situation. This is weird, right? She said finally. Us playing house like this? Extremely weird. But you're doing it anyway. I'm doing a lot of things I never thought I'd do. Adrian glanced at her, something uncertain in his expression. I never planned on getting married. After I lost my family, the idea of getting close to people again felt dangerous. Easier to keep everyone at arm's length. And yet here we are. Here we are. He plated the stir-fry, the kitchen filling with the smell of garlic and ginger. Your father used to tell me I was going to end up alone if I didn't let someone in. Guess he found a way to force my hand. Forcing someone into marriage seems extreme, even for him. He was a man who believed in extreme solutions to extreme problems. Adrian set a plate in front of her. Eat. Tell me if it's terrible. It wasn't terrible. It was actually pretty good, though she wouldn't give him the satisfaction of saying so yet. They ate in silence that should have been awkward, but wasn't. Two people learning to exist in the same space, figuring out the rhythms of a life they never chose. We should establish rules, Adrian said after a while. Boundaries. Make this easier on both of us. What kind of rules? Privacy mostly. Your space is yours. I won't come into your room uninvited. You do the same for me. Okay. Social calendar. You want to see friends, go out, whatever. You don't need my permission. Just let me know so I can make sure security protocols are in place. That's going to get old fast. Probably, but it's necessary. Evelyn pushed food around her plate. What about other people? Adrian looked at her blankly. Other people? Dating? Relationships? Whatever. She felt her face heat. We're married, but we're not really married, so what happens if one of us meets someone? Understanding dawned in his eyes. We cross that bridge when we come to it. For now, appearances matter. We need to look like a real couple to everyone outside these walls. And inside these walls? Inside these walls, we're whatever we need to be to survive this. He met her eyes. I'm not going to pretend I have all the answers. We're making this up as we go. It was honest, at least. More honest than the carefully constructed lies they were telling everyone else. Evelyn's phone buzzed. Maya, asking how the ceremony went, if she was deliriously happy, if married life was everything she dreamed. The lies came easier this time. She texted back about how perfect it was, how Adrian made her feel safe, how her father would have been proud. All true, in their own twisted way. I'm going to turn in, Adrian said, collecting their plates. Early meeting tomorrow, but help yourself to anything in the kitchen if you get hungry later. Adrian? He turned back. Thank you for dinner, for all of this. Something shifted in his expression, his professional mask slipping just enough to show the person underneath. You don't have to thank me for keeping a promise. He disappeared down the hallway to his room, leaving Evelyn alone in the cavernous living space. She walked to the windows, looking out at the city lights stretching to the horizon. Somewhere out there, people were plotting, planning, looking for leverage they could use against her father's evidence. And here she stood, in a stranger's apartment, wearing a stranger's ring, trying to convince herself this was all going to work out. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her press the green button. Hello? Silence on the other end. Not empty silence. She could hear breathing. Someone was there. Who is this? Her voice came out steadier than she felt. More silence. Then a click. The call ended. Evelyn stared at the phone, her hands suddenly shaking. Wrong number, probably. Spam call. Nothing to worry about. Except her father's warning echoed in her head. Unseen enemies are coming for you. She walked quickly to Adrian's door, knocked before she could second-guess herself. He opened it in sweatpants and a t-shirt, looking more human than she'd ever seen him. "What's wrong?" "Someone just called. Unknown number. They didn't say anything, just breathed." Adrian's expression hardened. "Give me your phone." She handed it over. He pulled up the call log, took a screenshot, sent it somewhere. "It's probably nothing," he said, but his voice had gone tight. "But I'm going to have someone trace it, just in case." "You think they already found me?" "I think we're going to be careful." He handed back her phone. "Keep your door locked tonight, and if anyone calls again, don't answer. Let it go to voicemail." "Adrian, I'm scared." The admission came out small, vulnerable. Everything she'd been trying not to feel since this nightmare started. He hesitated, then reached out and squeezed her shoulder. Brief contact, there and gone. "I've got you," he said quietly. "Whatever comes, you're not facing it alone." She wanted to believe him. Standing there in the hallway of an apartment that didn't feel like home, married to a man she barely knew, Evelyn realized she didn't have much choice. She went back to her room, locked the door like Adrian suggested, and lay awake in the darkness listening to the city breathe beyond the windows. Her phone stayed silent, but sleep didn't come easily, and when it finally did, she dreamed of her father standing at the edge of darkness, warning her about shadows she couldn't see. The morning came with rain hammering against the windows, and Adrian already gone. Evelyn found a note on the kitchen counter written in his precise handwriting. Had to leave early for depositions. Back by 6. There's coffee ready? Just press start. Door stays locked. Call if you need anything. A. She held the note for a moment, this small piece of evidence that she wasn't completely alone in this. Then she made the coffee and stood at the windows watching the city wake up through sheets of gray rain. Her phone showed 3 missed calls from the same unknown number. All came in around 3 in the morning while she'd finally managed to fall asleep. No voicemails. Just the calls themselves, insistent and silent. She sent Adrian a text with a screenshot. His response came immediately. "Don't answer. Forwarded to my security contact. Stay inside today." Stay inside. Like she was under house arrest in a luxury apartment 28 floors above the world. Evelyn tried to work, pulling out her laptop to check emails from the marketing firm where she'd been employed for 3 years. Her boss had been understanding about her father's death, about her sudden wedding, about needing time off. But understanding had limits, and she'd already pushed most of them. She made it through 2 emails before her concentration shattered. The apartment felt too quiet, too big. She wandered through rooms that weren't hers, looking at art she didn't understand, touching furniture that probably cost more than her college education. In Adrian's study, she found it by accident, door half open, shelves lined every wall. Legal text, case files, but also novels. Real books. Worn spines suggesting they'd been read multiple times. She scanned the titles. Steinbeck, McCarthy, Morrison. Authors who wrote about broken people in broken worlds. A photo sat on his desk. Younger Adrian, maybe 20, standing between an older couple and a teenage girl. His family. The ones he'd lost. They were laughing at something off camera, frozen in a moment before everything ended. She backed out of the room quickly, feeling like she'd seen something too private. By noon, she was going stir-crazy. She texted Maya, "Lunch?" The response was immediate. "Yes." "Usual place? 1 hour?" Evelyn hesitated. Adrian had said to stay inside, but he wasn't her keeper. She was a grown woman who could meet her best friend for lunch without asking permission. She grabbed her coat and purse, keyed in the security code, and stepped into the hallway. The elevator ride down felt like escaping. The restaurant was 10 blocks away, close enough to walk despite the rain. Evelyn kept her head down, umbrella up, trying to shake the feeling that someone was watching her. Paranoia, that's all it was. Paranoia born from stress and fear and too many unknown phone calls. Maya was already there, waving from a corner booth. She pulled Evelyn into a hug that lasted longer than normal. "You look terrible," Maya said, which was why Evelyn loved her. No sugarcoating. "Thanks. I feel terrible." "Married life not agreeing with you already?" Evelyn slid into the booth, shrugging off her wet coat. "It's not that. It's just everything. I keep waiting to wake up and have my life make sense again." Maya reached across the table, squeezing her hand. "Your dad just died and you got married in the same week. You're allowed to be a mess. Adrian's been good. Really good, actually. I just feel like I'm living someone else's life. Tell me about him. The real stuff, not the romance novel version you gave us at dinner. So Evelyn talked about how Adrian was quiet but not cold, organized but not controlling, how he gave her space but made sure she knew she wasn't alone, how he cooked badly but with enthusiasm, how his apartment felt like a museum, but he was trying to make her comfortable. She didn't mention the phone calls, the security protocols, the fact that their marriage was a legal shield against people who might want her dead. Some truths were too complicated to share. He sounds almost too good to be true, Maya said carefully. Nothing's too good to be true. He's just decent. In a situation that's completely insane. Do you love him? The question landed like a punch. I barely know him. That's not what I asked. Evelyn looked down at her hands, at the simple gold band on her finger. I don't know what I feel. It's all too mixed up with grief and fear and trying to figure out who my father really was. Your dad would want you to be happy. My dad wanted me to marry a stranger and inherit millions. I'm not sure his judgment on my happiness is reliable. Maya laughed, but it faded quickly. You know you can tell me anything, right? If something's wrong, if you need help, I know. Evelyn forced a smile. I'm okay. I promise. They ordered food and talked about safer things. Maya's disaster of a dating life, the new project at work, whether Sarah was actually going to marry her boyfriend or keep stringing him along forever. Normal conversation. Normal problems. Evelyn was reaching for her water glass when she saw him, a man at the bar, watching her. Not subtle about it either. When their eyes met, he didn't look away. Her blood went cold. Evelyn? You okay? Maya's voice seemed to come from far away. I need to use the restroom. She stood on shaky legs, walked toward the back of the restaurant, pulled out her phone with trembling fingers, and texted Adrian. There's a man watching me. Restaurant on 5th and Morrison. I think I'm being followed. The response came before she even made it to the bathroom. Stay inside, public place. I'm 10 minutes away. She locked herself in a stall, trying to control her breathing. This was insane. Maybe the guy was just looking at her. Maybe she was imagining threats that didn't exist. But her father's letter burned in her memory. They will touch you if they think it'll draw me out or punish me for what I've done. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Her phone buzzed. I'm here. Come to the front entrance. Evelyn washed her hands, checked her reflection, tried to look normal, not like someone running from shadows. When she came out, Adrian was standing just inside the restaurant door, scanning the room. He wore a suit that looked like he'd come straight from court, his expression tight with controlled worry. The man at the bar was gone. Adrian's eyes found her, and something in his posture relaxed. Barely, but enough that she noticed. Maya's still at the table, Evelyn said quietly as she reached him. Go say goodbye. Make it casual. I'll wait here. She went back to the booth where Maya sat looking confused. Emergency, Evelyn said, grabbing her coat. Adrian needs me for something. I'm sorry to bail. Is everything okay? Yeah, just work stuff. I'll call you later. Maya glanced past her to where Adrian waited, something uncertain crossing her face, but she nodded. Be safe. Adrian didn't speak until they were outside, rain still falling in heavy sheets. He hailed a cab instead of walking, opening the door for her before sliding in beside. Describe him, he said once they were moving. Tall, maybe 40, dark hair, gray at the temples, expensive watch. He was just staring. Did he approach you? No. I went to the bathroom, and when I came back out, he was gone. Adrian pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. I'm having someone pull security footage from the restaurant. You really think he was there for me? I think we don't take chances. His jaw was tight. I told you to stay inside. I'm not a prisoner. You're a target. The words came out harder than she'd heard him speak before. Those calls last night weren't random. Someone's testing our defenses, seeing how close they can get. Fear twisted in her stomach. You should have told me that this morning. I didn't want to scare you. Well, congratulations. I'm scared anyway. The cab pulled up to Adrian's building. He paid quickly, ushered her through the lobby with a hand on her lower back. The doorman nodded at them, his expression professionally neutral, but Evelyn saw him clock Adrian's tension. In the elevator, Adrian finally looked at her. Really looked at her. "I'm sorry," he said. "I should have been clearer about the danger. Should have made sure you understood that this isn't hypothetical." "I know it's not hypothetical, I just didn't think it would happen so fast." "Neither did I." He ran a hand through his hair, messing up the careful styling. "The phone calls. Now, someone at a restaurant you frequent, they're moving faster than I expected." "What does that mean?" "It means they're desperate. The investigation must be progressing. They're trying to find leverage before the walls close in completely." The elevator opened onto their floor. Adrian keyed in the security code with sharp movements. Inside the apartment, he immediately went to his study. Evelyn followed, watching him pull up something on his computer. "The number that called you last night traces back to a burner phone, purchased with cash 2 days ago at a convenience store in Seattle." He clicked through screens. "No cameras in that store. No way to ID who bought it." "Seattle? But we're in Portland." "Doesn't mean the person using it is in Seattle. Could have been purchased by anyone, anywhere. But it tells us they're being careful, using untraceable methods." Evelyn sank into the chair across from his desk. "This is really happening. Someone's actually after me." "Yes." The bluntness of it should have made things worse. Instead, there was something almost relieving about it. No more maybes, no more wondering if she was paranoid. "What do we do?" she asked. "We stay smart. No more going out alone. If you need to see friends, I come with you, or we have security escort you." "I can't live like that." "You can. And you will. Because the alternative is worse." Adrian's expression softened slightly. "I know this isn't the life you chose. I know it's unfair and restrictive and feels like punishment, but it's temporary. Once the investigation concludes, once these people are locked up, you get your freedom back." "And how long will that take?" "I don't know. Months? Maybe longer. Months of living in fear. Months of watching every shadow, questioning every stranger." Evelyn thought about her father, alone with his secrets, making these same calculations, accepting these same restrictions. Had he been scared, or had he just been numb to it after a while? "Did my father ever regret it?" she asked. "Getting involved?" Adrian leaned back in his chair, considering the question. "Sometimes. Late at night, when the investigation stalled or someone got hurt. He'd wonder if it was worth it, but then he'd look at the evidence, at the lives these people destroyed, and he'd remember why he started. He could have walked away. So could you." She met his eyes. "Could I really? At this point?" "No," he admitted. "You're in it now. But that's on me as much as your father. I should have given you more time to decide. Should have laid out the full reality before you signed that marriage certificate. You told me there was danger. I told you the sanitized version, the one where danger was abstract and distant." Adrian stood, walking to the window. "The real version is uglier. These aren't movie villains. They're real people with real resources and absolutely no conscience. They've killed before. They'll kill again if they think it serves their purpose." The words hung in the air between them, heavy and unavoidable. "Why are you telling me this now?" Evelyn asked. "Because you deserve to know what you're up against. And because I need you to take this seriously. No more lunch dates without telling me. No more leaving the apartment on impulse." He turned to face her. "Your life depends on you being smart about this." She wanted to argue, wanted to push back against the restrictions, the fear, the loss of control over her own existence. But the man at the restaurant had been real. The phone calls had been real. "Okay," she said quietly. "I'll be smart." Adrian's shoulders relaxed slightly. "Thank you." Her phone rang. "Maya." She answered, putting it on speaker at Adrian's gesture. "Hey, that guy you were worried about?" Maya's voice came through tight with concern. "He came back after you left. Asked the waiter who you were, if you came here often." Evelyn's stomach dropped. "What did the waiter say?" Adrian asked. "Adrian?" Maya sounded surprised to hear him. The waiter said he didn't know, but the guy tipped him $100 and left a business card. Said if he remembered anything about the woman in the blue coat to call him." "Do you still have the card?" Adrian's voice had gone cold, professional. "The waiter gave it to me. Thought I should know. It just says Michael Chen and a phone number." "Don't call that number. Text me a photo of the card and then throw it away." "This is serious, isn't it? Like, actually serious." "Yes," Adrian said before Evelyn could sugarcoat it. If anyone else asks about Evelyn, don't engage, don't confirm you know her, and call me immediately. Should I be worried? Like, for myself? No, they're not interested in you, but be aware. Pay attention to your surroundings. Maya was quiet for a moment. What did you guys get mixed up in? It's complicated, Evelyn said, and I can't explain right now, but we're handling it. Evelyn, I promise I'm safe. Adrian's making sure of that. After a few more assurances, Maya hung up. The photo of the business card came through seconds later. Adrian forwarded it to someone, then made a call. Michael Chen, business card with a Seattle number. I need everything you can find. He paused, listening. No, assume it's an alias. Run the number. See if it connects to anything in the Holloway network. Another pause. Thanks, Davis. He hung up and looked at Evelyn. Davis is private security, former FBI. He's been helping me monitor the situation since your father got sick. How many people know about this? Not many. Davis, a few federal investigators, the Attorney General's office. Adrian sat down across from her again. Your father kept the circle small. The fewer people who knew, the fewer potential leaks. And you're sure Davis is trustworthy? As sure as I can be about anyone. He rubbed his eyes, exhaustion showing through. I've known him for 4 years. He helped with some of Richard's other projects. Never once compromised an investigation. Evelyn studied Adrian, seeing the weight he carried. This wasn't just about keeping a promise to her father. He'd been living with this pressure for months, managing threats and security protocols, and the constant fear that something would go wrong. When's the last time you slept? She asked. The question seemed to surprise him. Last night. How much? Few hours. Adrian, I'm fine. You look exhausted. I'm always exhausted. That's just how I look. But his mouth quirked slightly, almost a smile. Despite everything, Evelyn found herself smiling back. We're a mess, aren't we? Absolutely. He stood, stretching. I'm going to make dinner, something simple. You can help or hide or whatever you need. I'll help. They moved to the kitchen, falling into the rhythm they'd established the night before. Adrian chopping vegetables, Evelyn handling prep work. It was almost peaceful, this small slice of domestic normalcy in the middle of chaos. Can I ask you something? Evelyn said after a while. Sure. Why didn't you ever get married? Before all this, I mean. You're successful, good-looking, relatively normal. Seems like you'd have options. Adrian laughed, but it sounded hollow. Relatively normal. That's generous. You know what I mean? He was quiet for a long moment, his knife moving in steady rhythm against the cutting board. After my family died, I didn't trust myself with people. Felt like everyone I got close to ended up hurt. That's not rational. Grief rarely is. He scraped vegetables into a pan, and by the time I worked through enough therapy to recognize that, I'd built a life that didn't have room for relationships. Work consumed everything. Easier that way. Easier or safer? Both. He glanced at her. What about you? No serious relationships? A few. Nothing that stuck. My longest relationship was 2 years, ended about 6 months ago. He wanted marriage and kids, the whole package. I wanted to focus on my career. She paused. Funny how life works out. He wanted marriage. I said no. Now I'm married anyway, just not to him. You regret it? Ending things with him? No, he was a good guy, but we weren't right. I just regret that I don't get to make my own choices anymore. Everything's been decided for me. Adrian turned off the stove, plating food with careful attention. I know it feels that way, but you're making choices every day. You chose to marry me. You chose to stay instead of running. You chose to trust me, at least a little bit. Did I choose? Or did circumstances choose for me? There's always a choice. The options might all be terrible, but they exist. He handed her a plate, their fingers brushing briefly. The contact sent an unexpected jolt through her, awareness of him as more than just her reluctant husband. She pulled her hand back quickly. They ate in silence that felt less comfortable than before, awareness hanging between them like humidity before a storm. Evelyn's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. We should talk. It's about your father. Her hands went cold. Adrian noticed immediately. What? She showed him the message. His expression hardened. Don't respond. What if it's legitimate? What if someone actually knew my father? Then they can go through proper channels, not anonymous texts to your personal number. Another message came through. I know about the evidence. I can help keep you safe. Meet me tomorrow, noon, coffee shop on Madison. They're trying to draw you out, Adrian said. Get you alone somewhere public but isolated. How did they get my number? Same way they found you at the restaurant. They've been watching you, probably for weeks. Evelyn felt sick. Weeks? Before my father died? Probably. They knew he was sick, knew he was running out of time. They've been positioning themselves for this moment. A third message arrived. Don't trust Adrian Vale. He's not who he says he is. She looked up at Adrian, watching his face. He'd gone very still, his jaw tight. What are they talking about? She asked. They're trying to drive a wedge between us. Make you doubt me so you're easier to manipulate. Is there anything I should doubt? Anything you haven't told me? Adrian met her eyes directly. I've told you everything that matters. Yes, I have a past. Yes, there are things about my work I haven't shared because they're confidential, but nothing that affects your safety or our arrangement. She wanted to believe him, needed to believe him, because if she couldn't trust Adrian, she couldn't trust anyone. Block the number, he said, and we're changing your phone. New number, new device, tomorrow. Won't they just find the new one? Eventually, maybe, but it'll buy us time. Evelyn blocked the number, then set her phone face down on the counter like it might bite her. This is getting worse, she said. It's escalating, but that means we're close to the end. They're getting desperate, which means the investigation is tightening around them. Adrian moved closer, his presence solid and reassuring. We just have to hold on a little longer. And if we can't, we can. We will. His hand found her shoulder again, that same brief contact from last night. I'm not going to let anything happen to you. She looked up at him, this man she'd married out of obligation, who cooked her dinner and answered her questions and stood between her and threats she couldn't see. Why? The question came out softer than she intended. Why are you really doing this? And don't say it's just because you promised my father. Adrian was quiet for a long time, his hand still on her shoulder. Because when my family died, I wanted to die too, and Richard gave me a reason to keep breathing. He didn't fix me, didn't make the pain go away, but he gave me purpose when I had nothing else. His voice was rough. You're his daughter, the person he loved most in this world. Protecting you isn't just keeping a promise, it's honoring the man who saved my life. Evelyn felt tears prick her eyes. He would have liked knowing that you're here. I hope so. They stood there in Adrian's kitchen, the city lights spreading beyond the windows, two people bound by grief and legal documents and something neither of them could quite name. Adrian's phone rang, breaking the moment. He pulled away to answer it. Davis, what have you got? He listened, his expression growing darker. You're sure? Yeah, I understand. Thanks. He hung up slowly. Michael Chen is an alias, he said. The real name is Marcus Chen, works for a shell company owned by James Garrett. The senator. The one her father's evidence would destroy. They sent someone directly, Evelyn breathed. Looks like it. Davis also traced the text to a different burner phone, same batch purchase as the one that called last night. They're coordinating. How many people are watching me? Impossible to know, but at least two, maybe more. Evelyn walked to the window, looking down at the street below. Cars moved like toys. People like ants. Any one of them could be watching this building, waiting for her to make a mistake. I can't live like this, she said, always afraid, always looking over my shoulder. Adrian came to stand beside her. You won't have to, not forever. How can you be sure? Because your father's evidence is airtight. The investigation's moving forward, and once it does, once arrests start happening, you stop being a useful target. And until then? Until then, we stay smart, stay safe, and trust each other. She looked at him, at the stranger who'd become her husband, her protector, her only solid ground in a world gone sideways. I'm trying, she said, to trust you. It's just hard. I know. He turned to face her fully. But I'm here. However long this takes, whatever we face, I'm here. Outside, rain continued to fall. Inside, two people stood at a window and tried to believe they could survive what was coming. Evelyn's phone, face down on the counter, buzzed one more time. Neither of them moved to check it. Some messages were better left unread. The message on her phone turned out to be from Maya, just checking in. But the damage was done. Evelyn barely slept that night, every sound in the apartment making her heart race. The hum of the refrigerator, the building settling, rain against glass. Around 3 in the morning, she gave up and padded to the kitchen for water. The apartment was dark except for the city glow filtering through the windows. She was halfway across the living room when she realized she wasn't alone. Adrian sat in one of the chairs by the window, still dressed, staring out at the city. "Can't sleep either?" she asked quietly. He turned, unsurprised to see her. "Occupational hazard. You?" "Same." She joined him at the window, keeping a careful distance. "How often do you sleep?" 4, maybe 5 hours a night, less when things get complicated. "Things are pretty complicated right now." "Yeah." He rubbed his face. "Davis called again after you went to bed. They've identified 3 separate individuals conducting surveillance on this building over the past week." Evelyn's stomach dropped. 3? Different shifts. They're watching around the clock. "So we're trapped here. We're safe here. There's a difference." Adrian stood, moving to the kitchen. "Want tea?" "Coffee will just make the insomnia worse." "Tea's fine." She watched him move through the darkened kitchen, pulling out mugs and tea bags with the ease of someone who'd done this countless times before. The domesticity of it was surreal. Her husband making her tea at 3 in the morning while people watched their building, planning ways to hurt her. "Tell me something true," she said suddenly. Adrian looked up from the kettle. "What?" "Something real. Something that's not about the investigation or my father or any of this mess. Just something true about you." He was quiet for a long moment, steam beginning to rise from the kettle. "I'm afraid of driving," he said finally. "Haven't been behind a wheel since my family died. Can't even sit in the driver's seat without having a panic attack." The admission hung in the air between them, raw and vulnerable. "That's why you always take cabs," Evelyn said. "That's why I always take cabs." He poured hot water over the tea bags. "My therapist says it's PTSD, says I should work through it gradually, but 6 years later I still can't make myself try." "You don't have to apologize for trauma." "I'm not apologizing. You asked for something true. That's about as true as it gets." He handed her a mug. "Your turn." Evelyn wrapped her hands around the warm ceramic, thinking. "I'm afraid I'm going to forget my mother's voice. It's been 12 years and sometimes I can't remember exactly how she sounded. It terrifies me." "Do you have recordings?" "A few old voicemails I've saved, but they're not the same as remembering naturally." They stood in the kitchen drinking tea, 2 people held together by fear and legal obligation, sharing truths in the darkness. "I'm glad you're here," Adrian said quietly. "I know that's selfish. I know you'd rather be anywhere else, but I'm glad you're here and not alone in your apartment where I couldn't protect you." "It's not selfish, it's honest." Evelyn set down her mug. "And for what it's worth, I'm glad you're here too, even if the circumstances are insane." Something shifted in his expression. Not quite a smile, but close. "We should try to sleep," he said. "Tomorrow's going to be long. Davis wants to meet with us, go over security protocols." "More protocols, great." "I know, but necessary." They walked back to their separate rooms, the hallway between them feeling both too long and not long enough. Evelyn climbed back into bed and somehow, impossibly, fell asleep. She woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of coffee. For a disoriented moment, she couldn't remember where she was. Then reality crashed back. Adrian's apartment, her new life, people watching the building. She found Adrian in the kitchen again, this time with Davis. The security consultant was exactly what Evelyn had imagined. Late 40s, military bearing, eyes that missed nothing. "Mrs. Vale," he said, standing as she entered. "Good to finally meet you." The name still felt foreign. Mrs. Vale. Like someone else's identity she was borrowing. "Just Evelyn is fine." Davis nodded, gesturing to the seat across from him. "Adrian's been filling me in on yesterday's incidents, the restaurant, the texts. We need to tighten security protocols." For the next hour, Davis outlined a plan that made Evelyn feel like a prisoner in witness protection. New phone with a number only a handful of people would have. Encrypted messaging apps. Check-in times. A panic button disguised as a car key fob. "This is extreme," she said finally. "This is necessary. Davis countered. These people have already demonstrated they know your patterns, your locations, your contacts. We need to disrupt that knowledge. What about my job? My friends? I can't just disappear. You don't disappear. You just become unpredictable. Davis pulled out a tablet, showing her a schedule. Vary your routines, different coffee shops, different routes. If you're meeting friends, pick places you've never been before. Make it harder for them to anticipate your movements. Evelyn looked at Adrian, who'd been quiet through most of this. You agree with this? I think Davis knows what he's doing, but ultimately it's your choice. You want to take risks, I can't stop you. That's not fair. None of this is fair. Adrian's voice was level but firm. But Davis is right. They're escalating. We need to be smarter than they are. She wanted to argue, wanted to push back against losing even more control over her life. But the memory of the man at the restaurant, the anonymous texts, the surveillance teams watching this building, it all pressed down on her until argument felt pointless. Fine, she said. New phone, new protocols, whatever it takes. Davis nodded approvingly. Good. I'll have the phone delivered this afternoon. In the meantime, keep the old one powered on, but don't use it. Let them think they still have access. After Davis left, Evelyn and Adrian sat in silence. The apartment felt smaller somehow, the walls closing in. I need to get out of here, Evelyn said. Just for a few hours. I'm going crazy cooped up. Adrian checked his watch. I have a meeting at 2 I can't reschedule, but we could do lunch first, somewhere new, somewhere they won't expect. That sounds good. They ended up at a small Vietnamese restaurant in a neighborhood Evelyn had never visited. The place was tucked between a laundromat and a bookstore, the kind of spot you'd only find by accident or local recommendation. Adrian had found it through a client years ago, he explained, before his life became consumed by her father's investigation and all the complications that came with it. The food was excellent. Evelyn hadn't realized how hungry she was until the pho arrived, steam rising in fragrant clouds. This is nice, she said between bites. Almost normal. Almost, Adrian agreed, though I'm pretty sure that guy at the counter has been watching us for the past 10 minutes. Evelyn's head snapped up, fear spiking. Adrian caught her hand across the table. Relax. He's watching because he thinks you're beautiful, not because he's surveillance. The casual touch, the compliment, both caught her off guard. How can you tell? Body language. He's interested, not threatening. There's a difference. Adrian released her hand slowly. You need to learn to read people better if you're going to navigate this. Teach me. So Adrian spent the next 20 minutes explaining the subtle tells that separated curiosity from threat, the way surveillance teams positioned themselves for exits, how they rotated attention to avoid being obvious, the difference between someone checking their phone and someone photographing you. You're good at this, Evelyn said. Reading people. Years of practice. Legal work requires understanding what people aren't saying as much as what they are. Is that why my father trusted you? Because you could read situations? Adrian's expression shifted. Partly. But also because I was willing to do things other lawyers wouldn't. Your father's extracurricular activities existed in legal gray areas. He needed someone who could navigate those without flinching. Like what? Like setting up shell corporations to hide witnesses, like moving money in ways that couldn't be traced back to source, like creating legal shields that would hold up under intense scrutiny. He paused. I'm not proud of all of it, but it was necessary. Did you ever break the law? Technically, probably. But everything I did served a greater good, protecting people who were trying to do the right thing. Evelyn studied him across the table. You're more complicated than you seem. Most people are. They finished eating and Adrian paid, leaving a generous tip. As they stood to leave, he took her hand again. This time it felt less like reassurance and more like something else, something that made her pulse quicken in ways that had nothing to do with fear. On the sidewalk, he didn't let go. For appearances, he said quietly. In case anyone is watching. Right, appearances. But his thumb brushed across her knuckles, and that didn't feel like appearances. That felt intentional. They walked 2 blocks before Evelyn's new phone buzzed. Davis, with a number she should memorize and then delete from her contacts. The afternoon passed in a blur of security briefings and encrypted setups. By the time Adrian left for his meeting, Evelyn's head was spinning with protocols and code words and emergency procedures. She tried to work, but concentration was impossible. Finally, she gave up and called Maya on the new number. "New phone, who's this?" Maya answered. "It's me. Had to change numbers. Long story." "Everything okay? You've been weird lately." "Define weird." "Secretive, jumpy, like you're running from something." Maya's voice softened. "Evelyn, are you in trouble?" The concern in her friend's voice nearly broke her. "It's complicated," Evelyn said carefully. "But I'm safe. Adrian's making sure of that." "Adrian's the one I'm worried about." "What do you mean?" "I did some digging, because I'm a good friend and also nosy. Adrian Vale has a spotless reputation professionally, but personally, the guy's a ghost. No social media, no digital footprint beyond work stuff. And the work he does is all high-level corporate defense, the kind of clients who have things to hide." Evelyn's stomach tightened. "He's private. That doesn't make him dangerous." "No, but it makes him mysterious. And you married him after knowing him for like 5 minutes. That makes me nervous." "I know what I'm doing." "Do you?" Maya didn't sound convinced. "Because from where I'm sitting, you met this guy at the worst moment of your life and he convinced you to marry him before you could think straight. That's predatory, Evelyn. That's not romantic." "It's not like that." "Then what is it like?" "Because you won't tell me anything real. You won't explain why you're changing phone numbers, or why strange men are asking waiters about you, or why you look terrified half the time." Evelyn closed her eyes. Maya deserved better than lies, but the truth was too dangerous to share. "I can't explain everything," she said finally, "but I need you to trust me. Trust that I know what I'm doing, even if it looks crazy from the outside." Maya was quiet for a long moment. "I trust you, but I don't trust him. Not yet. He needs to earn that." "Fair enough." They talked for a few more minutes about safer topics before hanging up. Evelyn sat staring at the new phone, thinking about Maya's words. Was Adrian predatory? Had he manipulated her into this marriage? But that didn't track with the man who made her tea at 3 a.m, who shared his own fears and respected her boundaries, who gave her space in his carefully controlled world. Her old phone, still powered on as Davis instructed, buzzed with a new message. "Unknown number. You're making a mistake trusting him. Adrian Vale isn't who you think he is. Ask him about Chicago. Ask him what really happened there. Chicago." Evelyn's mind raced. Adrian had mentioned working in Chicago before moving to Portland, but he'd never given details. She screenshotted the message and sent it to Adrian. His response came quickly. "Don't engage. I'll explain when I get home." Home. He'd called the apartment home, for both of them. Evelyn spent the next 2 hours researching Adrian Vale in Chicago. She found mentions of a high-profile case 5 years ago. Corporate espionage, millions in damages, a settlement that was sealed by the court. Adrian's name appeared in several articles as the defense attorney who'd brokered the deal, but nothing suggested wrongdoing on his part. Nothing that would warrant anonymous warnings. When Adrian finally returned, he looked exhausted. His suit jacket was rumpled, his tie loosened. He dropped his briefcase by the door and went straight to the kitchen, pulling out a bottle of whiskey. "You want to tell me about Chicago?" Evelyn asked from the doorway. He poured 2 fingers of whiskey, downed it, poured another. "What did they tell you?" "Nothing specific, just that you're not who I think you are, and I should ask you what really happened." Adrian laughed, but it sounded bitter. Classic misdirection. "Make you doubt me so you're easier to manipulate. So tell me the truth. Let me decide what to believe." He leaned against the counter, drink in hand. "Chicago was 5 years ago. I was defending a pharmaceutical company accused of stealing research from a competitor. The case was complicated, lots of gray area. Both sides had legitimate claims. And I won. Got my clients a favorable settlement, saved them hundreds of millions. It was the kind of case that makes careers." He took another drink. "What the articles don't mention is that 6 months later, the competitor went bankrupt, lost everything. 300 people lost their jobs. That wasn't your fault. Wasn't it? I'm the one who destroyed their case. I'm the one who made sure they couldn't recover damages that might have kept them afloat. You were doing your job. I was doing my job brilliantly. That's the problem." Adrian's eyes met hers. I was so focused on winning that I didn't stop to think about the human cost, about the lives I was affecting. Your father said that case was when he knew I needed to work for something bigger than corporate profit. That's when he brought me in on his projects. Evelyn moved closer. The people sending these messages, they're trying to make me fear you, make me think you're ruthless and amoral. I am ruthless, and my morality is flexible when necessary. That's why your father wanted me protecting you, because I'll do whatever it takes to keep you safe, ethics be damned. That should probably scare me. Probably. He set down his glass. Does it? She thought about it. Really thought about what it meant to be married to someone who'd admitted they'd bend or break rules when it served their purpose. No, she said finally, because I think your moral flexibility is aimed in the right direction now. You're not working for corporations anymore. You're working for people who need protection. Something in his expression softened. You're giving me a lot of credit. My father gave you more, and I'm starting to understand why. Adrian pushed off from the counter, closing the distance between them. He was close enough that she could smell whiskey on his breath, see the gold flecks in his blue eyes. They're going to keep trying to split us up, he said quietly. Keep sending messages designed to make you doubt me, make you think I'm dangerous or manipulative or using you. Are you using me? Yes. To keep a promise to a dead man, to give my life purpose, to feel like I'm doing something that matters. His hand came up, fingers brushing her cheek. But I'm not using you maliciously. Everything I've done, every protocol and restriction, it's all aimed at keeping you alive. His touch sent heat through her. This was dangerous territory. They were supposed to be maintaining professional distance, keeping this arrangement clinical. But there was nothing clinical about the way he was looking at her. Adrian, I know, this complicates things. We should keep boundaries. But he didn't pull away. I just need you to know that whatever else happens, whatever they try to make you believe, I'm on your side. Always. Evelyn's heart was racing. Okay. Okay? I believe you. The relief in his eyes was profound. He stepped back, putting safe distance between them again. I should shower, change. We can order dinner. Sounds good? He disappeared down the hallway, leaving Evelyn standing in the kitchen trying to figure out what had just happened. That almost moment, the charge in the air, the way her body had responded to his proximity. This was supposed to be fake. A legal arrangement, nothing more. But it was starting to feel like something more. Her new phone buzzed. Maya. Sarah's birthday is Friday. Drinks at Morrison's. You in? A public place. Lots of people. The kind of event that would be hard to secure properly, but also normal. The kind of thing a person with a normal life would do. She texted Adrian, friend's birthday Friday. Bar on Morrison. Can we make it work? His response came after a few minutes. I'll coordinate with Davis. We'll make it work. Friday came faster than Evelyn expected. The days between were filled with security briefings and encrypted communications and the strange dance of learning to live with someone who was simultaneously a stranger and her legal husband. They'd settled into routines. Coffee together in the morning, Adrian working from his study while Evelyn handled her job remotely. Dinners that sometimes felt like dates and sometimes felt like business meetings. And there were moments, small ones. Adrian's hand on her lower back as they navigated crowds. The way he listened when she talked about her work, actually listened instead of just waiting to speak. How he'd started leaving small things for her. A book she'd mentioned wanting to read. Her favorite tea that he'd somehow discovered and ordered. Nothing overt, nothing that crossed lines, but enough to make her wonder what would happen if they did. Morrison's was packed when they arrived. Sarah's birthday had attracted a crowd, friends and co-workers spilling across 2 reserved tables. Adrian stayed close, his presence protective without being obvious. To anyone watching, they looked like a couple. His hand found hers naturally. When she laughed at something Maya said, he smiled like he was in on the joke. He's different than I expected, Sarah said when Adrian went to get drinks. Warmer. Yeah, he grows on you, Evelyn said. You look happy. Happier than I've seen you in a while. Was she happy? It seemed impossible given the circumstances, but there was something about Adrian's steady presence, the way he'd created space for her in his life, that made her feel less alone. I'm getting there, Evelyn said. Adrian returned with drinks, sliding seamlessly into conversation with her friends. He told stories about his work that were funny without revealing anything confidential, asked questions that showed genuine interest. By the end of the night, even Maya seemed convinced. They were walking to the exit, Adrian's arm around her waist, when Evelyn saw him. Marcus Chen, the man from the restaurant, standing near the door watching them. Her entire body went rigid. Adrian felt it immediately. His arm tightened around her, his body shifting into a protective stance. "Where?" he asked quietly. "By the door. Gray suit." Adrian's eyes found the man, recognition flashing across his face. "Stay behind me." "Adrian!" But he was already moving forward, positioning himself between Evelyn and the threat. Marcus Chen smiled. It was cold, calculated. "Mr. Vale, Mrs. Vale, fancy meeting you here." "Walk away," Adrian said, his voice low and dangerous. "Now, I just want to talk about the evidence Richard Carter collected, about what it's worth. We have nothing to discuss." "No? Not even about how much easier your life would be if that evidence disappeared? How much safer your lovely wife would be?" Adrian's hand clenched into a fist. Evelyn saw the violence coiling in him, barely restrained. "You have 3 seconds to leave before I make you leave," Adrian said. Chen's smile widened. "So protective, it's almost sweet. Does she know what you did to your last client who trusted you? Does she know about Chicago? About how you sold out 300 people to save your own skin? That's not what happened, isn't it? You're very good at rationalizing your choices, Vale, but when it comes down to it, you always choose yourself. And eventually, you'll choose yourself over her, too." Evelyn stepped forward, done with being talked about like she wasn't there. "You don't know anything about him? Or us?" Chen turned his attention to her, his eyes cold. "I know your father made a lot of enemies before he died. I know that evidence is the only thing keeping you alive. And I know that if something happened to you, that evidence would lose its teeth. No living witness to testify about how it was collected." The threat was clear. Adrian moved so fast Evelyn almost didn't see it. One moment he was beside her, the next he had Chen against the wall, forearm across his throat. "You just threatened my wife," Adrian said, his voice deadly calm. "In a public place, in front of witnesses. That was stupid." Chen struggled against Adrian's hold. "You're assaulting me. Defending my wife from a direct threat. Very different legal standard." Adrian leaned in closer. "Tell Garrett and his friends that if they come near her again, I will destroy them. Not legally, personally. I know things about their operation that aren't in Richard's evidence. Things I've kept quiet because I was being professional. But if they hurt her, I stop being professional. Understand?" Chen's eyes widened slightly. Fear, real fear, crossed his face. Adrian released him, stepping back. "Now get out!" Chen stumbled toward the exit, casting one last look at Evelyn before disappearing into the night. The bar had gone quiet. People were staring. Adrian took Evelyn's hand, his grip tight. "We're leaving, now." He guided her out through a side exit, into an alley where Davis was already waiting with a car. "Get in," Davis said. They climbed into the back seat. Davis pulled out quickly, taking turns that seemed random, but were probably designed to lose anyone following. Evelyn was shaking. Adrian pulled her against him, his arms solid and real. "I'm sorry," he said into her hair. "I shouldn't have let him get that close. Shouldn't have lost control. You protected me." "I threatened him. That's different. That's going to escalate things." "He threatened me first. Doesn't matter. I should have been smarter." Adrian's hand moved in circles on her back, a gesture of comfort that felt automatic. "Davis, we need to move her. Tonight. They know too much. They're too close." "Where?" Davis asked from the front seat. "The safe house. The one Richard set up." Evelyn pulled back to look at Adrian. "Safe house? What safe house?" "Your father bought a property 18 months ago, under a shell company. Impossible to trace back to him or you. It's in the mountains 2 hours from here, fully stocked, secure." Adrian's expression was grim. "I was hoping we wouldn't need it, but after tonight we don't have a choice." "I can't just disappear. I have a job, friends." "You have people actively trying to kill you," Adrian cut in. "Everything else is secondary." "This is my life, and I'm trying to keep you alive long enough to have one." His voice rose, frustration breaking through. "Do you understand what just happened? They sent someone directly to threaten you, in public. That means they're done being subtle, done playing games. Next time it won't be words. Evelyn felt tears building. How long? At this safe house? I don't know. Days. Maybe weeks. However long it takes for the investigation to advance enough that you're no longer the most convenient target. This isn't fair. No, it's not. Adrian's voice softened. But it's necessary, and I'll be there with you, every step. She looked at him, this man who'd just slammed someone against a wall to protect her, who was willing to upend both their lives to keep her safe. Okay, she whispered. Okay, we'll go. Adrian pulled her close again, and Evelyn let herself be held as Davis drove them through the dark streets toward an uncertain future. Everything was spinning out of control, but Adrian's arms were steady, and right now that was all she had to hold on to. They stopped at the apartment only long enough to grab essentials. Adrian moved through rooms with military efficiency, pulling go bags from a closet Evelyn hadn't known existed. He'd prepared for this, she realized, had been preparing since before they'd even met. 10 minutes, he said, handing her a duffel. Pack what you can't live without. She stood in the guest bedroom that had almost started to feel like hers, trying to decide what mattered. Clothes, toiletries, her mother's crocheted blanket, the photo of her parents, her father's reading glasses that she'd tucked in a drawer. Small pieces of a life that kept getting smaller. Davis waited in the car while they packed. Adrian made calls in low, urgent tones. Evelyn caught fragments, federal prosecutors, case timelines, protective custody options. When they finally left, Evelyn looked back at the apartment one last time. She'd only lived there 3 weeks, but it represented something. A liminal space between her old life and whatever came next. The drive into the mountains took them through rain that turned to fog as they climbed. Davis took back roads, doubling back twice to ensure they weren't followed. Adrian sat beside Evelyn in the back seat, his hand finding hers in the darkness. I'm sorry, he said again. Stop apologizing. You didn't create this situation. No, but I haven't handled it perfectly either. Should have anticipated they'd get bold. Should have had better security at the bar. You can't predict everything. I should have predicted more than I did. His grip tightened. When Chen said that about you being the only living witness, all I could think about was what they'd done to the other 3. How easily they'd made those deaths look accidental. Evelyn had read about those deaths in her father's documents. A car crash. A suicide. A balcony fall. Each one investigated and closed without charges. I'm still here, she said, because your father planned well, and because you agreed to marry a paranoid stranger who sleeps 4 hours a night and makes you live like a fugitive. Despite everything, Evelyn almost smiled. When you put it that way, I sound very reasonable. You sound insane, which makes 2 of us. The safe house appeared through the fog, like something from another world. Modern architecture tucked into the trees, all glass and steel and sharp angles. Solar panels on the roof. A gravel drive that wound down from the main road, hidden by dense forest. Davis pulled up to a garage that opened automatically, responding to a code Adrian entered on his phone. Inside, the house was smaller than Adrian's apartment, but felt more lived in. Someone had stocked the refrigerator recently. Towels hung in the bathrooms. The heat was already on, taking the chill from the mountain air. Your father came here sometimes, Adrian said, setting down their bags. When he needed to think, to get away from the investigation. He wanted you to have somewhere safe if things went wrong. Evelyn walked through rooms her father had walked through, touched counters he'd touched, stood at windows looking out at the same view he'd seen. He really thought this through, she said quietly. He thought everything through, sometimes too much. Adrian joined her at the window. He had contingency plans for contingency plans. This house was just one piece. What were the others? Offshore accounts you could access if you needed to run. False identity documents. Contacts in 3 different countries who'd help you disappear. Adrian's voice was heavy. Your father wasn't taking any chances with your safety. The weight of it pressed down on her. Her father, dying and alone, orchestrating an elaborate escape plan for a daughter he couldn't bring himself to tell the truth. I wish he'd just talked to me, Evelyn said. Told me what was happening. Given me the choice to help or run or whatever. He was protecting you the only way he knew how, by controlling the variables. Control isn't the same as protection. No, but it's all he had. Adrian turned to face her. Your father wasn't perfect. He made mistakes, big ones. But he loved you more than anything in this world. That part was never in doubt. Evelyn's eyes burned with tears she'd been holding back for weeks. I'm so angry at him, for dying, for lying, for putting me in this impossible situation. And I feel terrible about being angry because he's dead and I can't even tell him how I feel. So tell him now. What? Tell him, out loud. Say everything you need to say. Adrian stepped back, giving her space. I'll be in the kitchen. Take your time. He left before she could protest. Evelyn stood alone in the living room of her dead father's safe house and let the anger finally surface. You were a coward, she said to the empty air. You had 8 months to tell me you were dying and you chose to suffer alone. You chose to lie. And then you died and left me with all these secrets and dangers and a husband I didn't choose. Her voice rose, years of carefully controlled emotions breaking free. I needed you. I needed my father, and instead I got surveillance and threats and a life I don't recognize. You always thought you knew better, always made decisions for me like I was still a child who couldn't handle the truth. She was crying now, full-body sobs that shook her frame. But I hate that I understand why you did it. I hate that if our positions were reversed, I might have done the same thing. I hate that you loved me so much it made you stupid. And I hate that you're not here so I can yell at you properly and then forgive you because you're my dad, and I love you even when you're an idiot. The words echoed in the quiet house, dissipating into nothing. Evelyn sank onto the couch, emotionally wrung out. After a while, Adrian appeared with tea. He didn't say anything, just set the mug on the table and sat on the opposite end of the couch, close enough to reach but far enough to give her space. Feel better? He asked eventually. A little, still angry, but less. Grief is weird like that. Anger and love all mix together until you can't tell which is which. They sat in comfortable silence, drinking tea and listening to rain on the roof. What happens now? Evelyn asked. Now we wait. Davis is coordinating with the federal team. They're accelerating the timeline on arrests based on tonight's threat. Should have movement within 48 hours. And then? And then we see if the house of cards falls the way your father predicted. The first day at the safe house passed in strange, suspended animation. Evelyn worked remotely, taking calls from the deck while Adrian paced inside, his phone constantly to his ear. Legal maneuvering, strategy sessions, updates from Davis. That night, they made dinner together. Adrian attempted pasta that came out slightly overcooked, and Evelyn threw together a salad from whatever vegetables she could find. We're terrible at this domestic thing, she said, looking at their mediocre meal. Speak for yourself. This is gourmet compared to my usual bachelor fare. Your bachelor fare is takeout from expensive restaurants. Exactly. This has vegetables. Very advanced. They ate on the couch because the dining table felt too formal. Some nature documentary played on the television, neither of them really watching it. Can I ask you something? Evelyn said during a lull. Always. When did you know? That you cared about me as more than just an obligation? Adrian was quiet for a long moment, setting down his fork. I'm not sure there was a specific moment. It crept up on me. He met her eyes. Maybe when you called me out for being patronizing that first week. Most people don't challenge me. They just accept whatever I say because I seem confident. But you pushed back. That made you like me? That made me respect you. The liking came later. Watching you adapt to impossible circumstances. How you stayed kind, even when you had every right to be bitter. He paused. And the morning I found you crying in the kitchen at 3 a.m. because you'd gotten an email that your father had scheduled to send after his death. Just him saying he loved you and was proud of you. Evelyn remembered that morning. The automated email that had felt like a ghost reaching out from beyond. You made me tea and didn't ask questions, she said softly, because you didn't need questions. You needed someone to sit with you while you fell apart. When did it become more than respect and liking? Adrian's expression shifted to something more vulnerable. Probably the night at the bar, when Chen threatened you and every instinct I had screamed to protect you. Not because your father asked me to, but because the thought of someone hurting you made me physically sick. The admission hung between them, honest and raw. I care about you too, Evelyn said. I don't know when it happened. Maybe it was gradual, or maybe it was all at once and I was too scared to acknowledge it. Scared of what? of this being real, of it mattering. Because if it matters and something happens to you because of me, I don't know how I'd survive that. Adrian moved closer, closing the distance between them on the couch. Nothing's going to happen to me. You can't promise that. No, but I can promise I'll fight like hell to make sure we both get through this. His hand came up, cupping her face. And when this is over, when you're safe and the threats are gone, we can figure out what this is, what we are. What if I don't want to wait? The question surprised them both. Evelyn? She kissed him, just leaned forward and pressed her lips to his, tired of waiting for the right moment or the safe choice. Adrian froze for half a second, then responded. His hand tangled in her hair, pulling her closer. The kiss deepened, weeks of tension and denied attraction finally breaking free. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. That complicates things, he said. Everything's already complicated. Fair point. He kissed her again, softer this time. We should probably talk about this. Set boundaries. Figure out what it means. Or we could just see what happens. That's very unlike you. You're usually the cautious one. Maybe I'm tired of being cautious. Maybe I want one thing in my life that feels good instead of terrifying. Adrian pulled back enough to look at her properly. I want this. Want you. But not if it's just escapism. Not if tomorrow you'll regret it. I won't regret it. You don't know that. I know I'm tired of being afraid, tired of second-guessing everything. You make me feel safe and seen, and like maybe I can survive this nightmare. She took his hand, pressing it over her racing heart. That's not escapism, that's real. Something in Adrian's expression cracked open. The careful control he maintained constantly, the professional distance, all of it fell away. Okay, he said quietly. Okay, we'll figure this out together. They spent that night talking, not about the investigation or the threats or the uncertainty of their future, just about themselves. Adrian told her about growing up with a sister who was smarter than him and parents who encouraged healthy sibling rivalry. Evelyn shared stories about her mother's terrible singing voice and how her father would join in just to make it worse. They fell asleep on the couch, tangled together, the television still playing nature sounds neither of them heard. Evelyn woke to her phone ringing. Davis. Adrian was already awake, his phone in hand, reading something that made his expression darken. What happened? She asked. Arrest started 2 hours ago. Federal agents hit 12 locations simultaneously. Garrett, Holloway, 8 others. They're in custody. Relief flooded through her. It's over? Not yet. They'll try to make bail. They'll fight the charges. But the evidence your father collected is solid. Davis says the prosecutors are confident. Adrian's phone rang. He stepped away to answer it, his voice dropping to tones Evelyn couldn't hear. When he came back, his expression was strange, tight. That was the lead prosecutor. They want you to testify. Grand jury first, then trial, if it goes that far. About how your father collected the evidence. What he told you about his investigation. But he didn't tell me anything. I didn't even know about it until after he died. You can testify to that. To the measures he took to protect you. To the threats you've received since his death. It strengthens their case that these people are dangerous, that your father had legitimate reasons to fear for both your safety. Testifying meant going public, meant her name in court documents, meant becoming even more of a target. Do I have a choice? Legally? Yes. Practically? If you want these people locked up for good, your testimony matters. Evelyn thought about her father, spending 3 years building this case, about the other informants who'd died trying to bring these criminals to justice, about the 300 people who'd lost their jobs in Chicago and countless others who'd been hurt by the corruption her father had documented. I'll do it, she said. You're sure? No, but I'll do it anyway. Adrian pulled her into his arms, holding tight. I'll be there. Every hearing, every testimony. You won't face this alone. The next week was a blur of legal preparations. Lawyers prepping her for testimony. Mock questioning sessions. Security protocols for courthouse appearances. The grand jury testimony happened on a Wednesday. Evelyn wore a simple gray suit and tried not to shake as she swore to tell the truth. Adrian sat in the hallway outside, unable to enter but there the moment she emerged. How'd it go? He asked. I have no idea. They asked a lot of questions about my father's mental state, whether he seemed paranoid or rational. I said he seemed like a man who knew he was doing something dangerous but believed it was right. That's good. That's exactly right. The indictments came down 3 days later. All 12 defendants charged with multiple counts of money laundering, fraud, conspiracy. Bail set impossibly high. They wouldn't be getting out anytime soon. Davis called that evening with an update. Surveillance teams have been pulled back. With the primary targets in custody, the threat level dropped significantly. You can go home. Home. Evelyn looked around the safe house that had become their refuge, where she and Adrian had stopped pretending they were just legal partners and started acknowledging something more. What do you think? She asked Adrian after Davis hung up. I think we can go back to the apartment, resume some version of normal life. Though we should keep security measures in place until after the trial. These people have friends. That's not what I'm asking. Adrian knew. She could see it in his eyes. I think, he said carefully, that we should take things slow. Figure out what we are when we're not running for our lives. We're married. We're legally married. That's different from actually being married. Is it? Evelyn moved closer. We live together. We trust each other. We've seen each other at our worst and stuck around anyway. Sounds pretty married to me. You married me because your father left you no choice. I married you because it was the smart tactical decision. I'm choosing to stay married because I want to. Adrian's expression shifted. Hope, uncertainty, fear all mixed together. I don't want you to feel trapped, he said. I don't feel trapped. I feel like maybe my father's insane plan actually worked. Not the way he intended, but it worked. Evelyn, I love you. The words came out easier than she expected. I don't know when it happened. Maybe gradually, maybe all at once. But I love you, and I want this to be real, not just paperwork and obligation. Real. Adrian kissed her like a man drowning who'd finally found air. When they broke apart, his hands framed her face with a gentleness that made her chest ache. I love you too, he said. I tried not to. Tried to keep it professional, but you made that impossible. Good. Professional is boring. They went back to Portland the next day. The apartment felt different, lighter somehow, with the immediate danger past. Evelyn moved her things from the guest room to Adrian's room, not because she had to, because she wanted to. The trial took 8 months. Evelyn testified twice, once in pretrial hearings and once during the main trial. Each time, Adrian sat in the gallery, his presence steady and reassuring. The jury deliberated for 3 days before returning guilty verdicts on all major counts. Sentencing put most of the defendants away for 20-plus years. The day the verdicts came down, Evelyn and Adrian went to her father's grave. She hadn't been back since the funeral, couldn't face it with everything else happening. But now, with justice served, she could stand at his headstone and say what needed saying. You were right, she told him, about Adrian, about the evidence being enough, about fighting even when it seemed impossible. She paused, wiping tears. You were wrong about a lot too, about keeping secrets, about trying to control everything, but you were right about the things that mattered most. Adrian stood a few feet back, giving her privacy. But when she turned to leave, his hand found hers immediately. Thank you, she said. For what? For keeping your promise. For protecting me. For becoming more than just my father's last wish. You make it sound noble. I was selfish. Wanted you from the moment you opened that door looking exhausted and furious and heartbroken. Every day since has just been me trying to deserve you. You deserve me. And I deserve you. We deserve each other. 6 months after the trial ended, they had a second wedding. A real one this time, not a courthouse formality. Small ceremony, just close friends. Maya served as Evelyn's maid of honor, still suspicious of Adrian but warming to him gradually. They exchanged new rings, wrote their own vows, promised to choose each other every day, not because a legal document required it, but because they wanted to. Sarah cried through the whole ceremony. Lisa got drunk and made an inappropriate toast. Maya cornered Adrian afterward and told him if he ever hurt Evelyn, she'd destroy him professionally and personally. Adrian had just smiled and said, I'd expect nothing less. The reception was at the safe house. They'd kept it, deciding it could be something other than a hiding place. A retreat. A reminder of where they'd figured out what they meant to each other. Dancing in the living room where Evelyn had once yelled at her dead father, she felt something settle into place. Not happiness, exactly. Happiness seemed too simple for everything they'd been through, but contentment, peace. The sense that she'd survived something that should have destroyed her and come out stronger. "What are you thinking?" Adrian asked, swaying with her to music that was probably too fast for slow dancing. "That my father would have loved this, seeing us actually happy instead of just legally bound. He knew, at the end. I told him I'd fallen for you even though we hadn't met yet, just from everything he told me about you. He laughed and said that was the point, that he was matchmaking from beyond the grave." Evelyn pulled back to look at him. "He said that?" His exact words were, "If you're going to protect her anyway, might as well fall in love with her. Makes the whole thing less pathetic." Adrian smiled. He was a romantic under all that paranoid planning. He was an idiot who got lucky. So are we. Idiots who got lucky. Speak for yourself. I'm a genius who made the best of impossible circumstances. Is that what we're calling it? Evelyn kissed him, there in front of their friends, in the house her father had built to keep her safe. A house that had become something else entirely. A place where two people learned to trust each other, to love each other, to choose each other when choice had seemed impossible. The investigation had taken 3 years of her father's life. The trial had taken 8 months of hers. But the marriage, the real one, the one built on honesty and choice and stubborn determination to make something beautiful out of chaos, that would take the rest of her life. And she was okay with that. More than okay. Because Adrian was right. They were idiots who'd gotten lucky, who'd been thrown together by circumstance and death and legal necessity, and had somehow found something real in the wreckage. Her father hadn't just protected her life with his final acts. He'd given her a chance at one worth living, had led her to someone who would stand beside her through the worst and still choose her in the aftermath. That was the real inheritance, not money or evidence or elaborate security protocols, just love. Messy and complicated and hard-won, but real. The kind of love that survives courtrooms and threats and dead fathers who orchestrate marriages from beyond the grave. The kind of love that makes you believe in second chances and fresh starts, and the possibility that sometimes the worst moments in your life can lead to the best ones. Evelyn held Adrian close and let herself believe it. Let herself be happy. Let herself live. And somewhere, she thought, her father was probably smiling, probably saying, "I told you so," to whatever version of the afterlife he'd ended up in. She wouldn't give him the satisfaction of admitting he was right. But he was. About all of it.